So here we are in what we're going to try to accomplish today. And if you want to follow along with this stream, then you can go to the GitHub repo for the stream. But before we get started, just want to quick talk about who I am. I teach engineering during the day, but I'm also a coder, and because of our current health situation, I've been not playing soccer, and so instead of that, I want to go through these JupyterHub deployment steps on those nights that I regularly play soccer, and I hope that you enjoy it. I'm a blog author, and you can read my blog here at Python for Undergrad Engineers. And I'm also the author of the book Problem Solving with Python 3.7 Edition, a beginner's guide to Python and open source programming tools. So if you're interested in learning Python, you can pick this up on Amazon. Our code of conduct includes a couple of things, so just make sure you're friendly, welcoming, considerate, respectful, you're careful with your words, you moderate your expectations, you try to understand why when you disagree with somebody, and that a simple apology will go a long way. And I'll always try to use family-friendly language in any of these videos. We're going to be continuing on in our JupyterHub deployment, but you can find the JupyterHub docs here. And if there are any other questions you have about JupyterHub or how it works, this is a great place to go. So let's review what we did last time. So we routed our domain name to the Linode name servers, and then we added an A record in Linode domains so that it linked to our virtual private server. So if I go to what's my DNS .net and I search for A records on our domain, then what you can see here is the IP address of our JupyterHub server. And if we use our domain name and we send it and ask about the name servers, it's not giving us any. We need the NS, excuse me. We ask about the name servers. That says that it's all going to linode.com. So our DNS routing is totally working. The other things that we did last time was install Miniconda. And after we installed Miniconda, then we created a virtual environment, actually a Conda environment, and installed JupyterHub into it. We also got an SSL certificate from Certbot and Let's Encrypt. So what we're going to try to accomplish today is complete that SSL security, install Nginx, and get Nginx running as a reverse proxy server, and then we'll hopefully be able to log into our JupyterHub server without any problem. So I'm going to create a couple of files for security, but note that the JupyterHub documentation says that there are these standard locations for putting your files. So all of these security files should go in this SRV JupyterHub directory. Alright, so what that means is that the first thing that we'll do is we'll make that SRV JupyterHub directory, then we'll cd into it, and we'll create our first security file. So I'm going to log into the server by opening up PuTTY and loading our configuration in PuTTY for our SSH key. And to get started, let's just do a quick sudo apt-get ey update and sudo apt-get ey upgrade, and that will just upgrade the system with any update to our installed packages. Alright, so now let's cd into the /srv directory, and if we look around here, right now there isn't any thing in it, so let's do a sudo mkdir JupyterHub, and then we'll cd into the JupyterHub directory. So now that we're in that JupyterHub directory where we'll store all of our security files, next what we're going to do is touch a file, then we'll change its group to sudo that our user Peter has access to. Then we'll give that group read and write access, and then we'll run OpenSSL to create the security file, and then finally we'll change the permissions to 600 owner read and write only. So we're going to create this JupyterHub cookie secret file, and I'm going to copy that, make sure that I spell it correctly. And I guess quick, maybe the other thing I'm going to do is there's a way to change what our prompt looks like. So I'm going to copy this command here and go back to the server and then paste it. That's with the right mouse button. And now if I do a clear, that just puts us on a new line and hopefully makes it a little more clear what commands I'm entering. Alright, so that's the JupyterHub cookie secret file is the one that we want to create. So I'll copy that, go back to the server, and then sudo touch and right click. Now if I do ls-la, you can see that we've got this JupyterHub, and it does say cookie secret. But right now the group is root, and that group does not have writing access. So we're going to change that now. So we'll use chown to change the group access. So we'll do sudo chown and then the colon and then the group that we want. We want sudo, and then we want to do that to the JupyterHub cookie secret file. Now if we do an ls-la, you can see that the group has been changed to sudo. So next we need to give that sudo group write permissions. So we'll do that with chmod, and then we're going to do group add write permission, and then it's that JupyterHub cookie secret file. So now if we do ls-la, you can see that the group sudo now has write privileges. So now we can create our security file with OpenSSL. So I'm going to copy this command just so that I don't goof it up. and this will create a random set of characters in our security file. Then we want to pipe that to our JupyterHub cookie secret file. And I'm hitting the tab key, and that auto completes the line. So if it looks like I'm not typing quick, I'm just hitting tab each time. Alright, so now we're going to change the permissions. Right now, root and sudo have read and write. We're going to change that so that only root has read and write privileges. So we'll do that with sudo chmod, and we'll change the permissions to 600. That's owner, read, write, and we'll do it to that JupyterHub cookie secret file. So now after this whole process is done, if we list, we see that we've got this JupyterHub cookie secret file and only read and write privileges for the root user. So next we're going to do the same thing basically, but we're going to create this proxy auth token, and we want to do this in the same directory that we created our cookie secret file in. So I'm just going to copy that. So we've only got one file in there, this JupyterHub cookie secret file. So we'll do sudo touch, and I'll right click, and now we can see that the proxy auth token is also in that same file. If we do listing of the permissions, the owner, and the group, we can see that again the group is root, and we're going to change that to our user Peter so that we can create the file, put stuff in that file, I guess. So we'll do that with sudo chown again, and the colon, after the colon you put the group, which is sudo, and then we'll want to do that to our proxy auth token. So we do an lsla. Now sudo is the group. So next we can run the command to change the permissions so that our group can read and write. I guess the group can already read, but let's change it to write. So we'll do sudo chmod, and then to the group we want to add writing privileges, and that's to that proxy auth token file. Okay, great. So now we should be able to write to that file, and we'll use a similar command that we used before, and then we'll pipe that result to our proxy auth token. Alright, last what we're going to do is just make it owner, read, and write only. So we'll do that with sudo chmod 600, and then proxy auth token. Alright, so now we've got the cookie secret and the proxy auth token in there. So one last security file that we're going to create is this dhparams.pem file. And we'll do it in basically the same way, except for the OpenSSL command is this dhparam command. So I'm not going to do all of the directory listings like I've done before, because I think hopefully you get the general idea of what we're doing. And I want to make sure that I spell this correctly, so copy. So we'll first touch the file to create it, and then we will change the group ownership to sudo, and then we'll add the writing permission to the group, and now we'll use the command to create the file. So I'm going to copy all this from our working docs there in GitHub. And this command takes a little bit longer to run. It says this is going to take a long time, but it doesn't really take all that long. It just takes a minute or two to complete. It's still going here. Still going. And I'm going to go back here. Yeah, I think that's right. Let's also go back to the docs that we are following for our JupyterHub deployment here. This is, oh, it finished. Okay, cool. So next we'll modify the permissions of the file. Sudo chmon, and we'll change them to 600 of the dhparams.pem file. Okay, so now if I do an ls-la, I can see that I've got 3 files in this /srv JupyterHub directory: the dhparam.pem file, the JupyterHub cookie secret file, and the proxy auth token file. Okay, so next what we're going to do is install and configure Nginx. Nginx is a reverse proxy server, and when requests come in from people using JupyterHub, what will happen is it'll first go through our Nginx server, and then Nginx will pass those on to JupyterHub. So we'll install it with a simple apt-get command. So we'll type sudo apt-get ey install Nginx, and it's installed. And now we'll make sure that our UFW firewall will allow Nginx through. So we'll do sudo UFW allow, and then quotes Nginx space full. And so now if we do sudo UFW status, we can see that Nginx full is allowed. So if we go to our well, I guess let's check if Nginx is running. So sudo systemctl status Nginx. It says it's active and running. You can do Control-C to get out of there. So if we go to our server here, let's see if we ping the IP address if something for Nginx comes up. No. How about if we go to, yeah, alright, good. So it says bad gateway. I know that sounds bad, but that means Nginx is actually running. Cool. Alright, so we got Nginx running and Nginx installed. Next, what we need to do is create an Nginx configuration file. And this is kind of a lot of work. So I'm going to go back to this documentation a couple times, and then we're going to be using this Nginx conf file here, and we'll also be using this ENGR101 lab Nginx configuration file. And I'll just quickly talk about these files before we move them over. So these files, whoops, get rid of that, get rid of that. I need this again. So these files are in etc nginx. So let's go to there on the server, cd/etc nginx. And if we list, we can see this nginx conf file. So this is the one that I want to replace. And if we do a cat nginx.conf, there's only a couple little things that we're going to change here. Oh, maybe even all of that is really close to the same as I've got here. So let's see in this nginx conf if there really is any difference. PID, worker connections. Well, I'll move over this reference one anyway. So the way that we're going to do this is with a tool called FileZilla. And FileZilla is a FTP client. Allow. No, I don't want it to make any changes. I don't want to install it. Cancel. Yes. It should be installed. FileZilla. FileZilla shortcut. There we go. Okay. So in FileZilla, if you go to File, Site Manager, then you can create a new site. I've already done this for our server, but the important things is that you put in the IP address, that you choose SFTP for SSH file transfer protocol. It's a little more secure. That you choose root as the user, because we're going to try to put some files into directories that are only accessible by root. And then you want to make sure that you have a key file that is one that is loaded up on the server. So I've got the same key file here that I've got in PuTTY. So as long as the key files there, key file type, root, server IP address, and SFTP are selected, we should be able to connect. Sweet, we're connected. So on the left-hand side, this is our local computer, and the file I'm looking for is here. That's the file on my local computer. And on the right-hand side, this is our server. So we want to go to etc/nginx. And then if I scroll down here, I can see this nginx conf file. So I'll drag it from here over to there. And we'll do overwrite. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to create a server block in the sites enabled or sites available directory. So this is our server block here, and there's a lot to it, and I'll just quickly go over some of the highlights. And this is saved in the GitHub repo that goes along with this video. So here in this top portion, this is just listening on port 80, which is regular HTTP, and you have to specify the correct DNS name, the correct web address name, and then this just returns to HTTPS. So anything that goes over regular HTTP, that gets returned to HTTPS. Okay, so HTTPS listens on port 443, and then here we're specifying the location of our SSL cert that we got with certbot, our SSL cert key, and our DH-params file that we just created. And then there are a couple other things listed here, like the SSL ciphers, and you got to make sure that the quotes, yep, and that it's ending with a semicolon. Also got to be careful with the parentheses in these files. Okay, so we'll move this file over, and where we want to move this file over to is we can see that there's this sites available folder. And right now it's got this file default in it. So we're going to move our engr101lab.org Nginx server block file over to here with FileZilla. Alright, so here in Nginx, we'll select the sites available, and then we'll grab our server configuration file and we'll drag it over. Sweet. Okay. So now that that's in there, for right now I'm going to remove this default file. So if we do ls, now we can see that there are two files in there. And I'll remove the default file. Sudo rm default. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we're going to symlink this file over to the sites enabled directory. And this is like a little confusing to me why you do it this way, but in a bunch of the documentation and the tutorials I've read, this is the way that you do these Nginx configurations. You've got this like main Nginx comp file, and that looks for these server blocks. It looks for the server blocks in the sites enabled directory, and the sites enabled directory gets populated by the server blocks that are in the sites available directory. And the way that we get this file into the sites enabled directory is with a symlink. So I'm going to go back here to what we're following for the stream, and then I'm going to run this command. So this symlinks the sites available ENGR 101 lab file into the uh, Etsy Nginx. Um, oops, I didn't copy all of it. I was like, why just the Nginx directory? Etsy Nginx um, sites enabled directory. Okay. So now if we go back to the Etsy Nginx directory and then cd into sites enabled, and we do ls, we can see our ENGR101 lab.org file is there. And then if we do a ls-la, you can see that this file is a symlink, and we can see where the symlink comes from. And it comes from our server block file that we just added. All right, so next we're going to see if there are any errors, and if there are, we'll fix them. We'll do this sudo nginx -t command. The configuration file is okay. Sweet. The test is successful. Sweet. That's great. All right. So now we'll restart Nginx and check its status again. So we'll do sudo systemctl stop Nginx, sudo systemctl start Nginx, sudo systemctl status Nginx. Looks like it's active and running. Control C to X out of that. So let's hop back to our web browser and just see. Yep, it says bad gateway, so that means Nginx is going. All right, so what we're going to do next is create a JupyterHub config.py file, and then in that JupyterHub config.py file, we'll make sure that it uses our cookie secret and our proxy auth token, and we'll also include our non-root sudo user Peter as an administrative and allowed user on the server. So we'll create this in the Etsy JupyterHub directory, but we need to create the directory and change some permissions. All right, so we'll go cd into /Etsy. And then want to make sure I'm there. Yep. Okay. Then we'll do sudo mkdir JupyterHub, and then we'll cd. Oh, before we do that, we gotta change the permissions. So we'll do sudo chmod or chown chown -r, and we'll have root be the owner, sudo be the group, and then we'll do the JupyterHub directory. So now if we do ls-la, oh whoops, it's way up here because there are a lot of things in this directory. Up here to JupyterHub, yep, root and sudo. So I'm gonna make sure also that the group has execution privileges, because I think maybe this file anything in here also has to be able to be executed. Okay. Um, we did chown. Let's do a chmod, and then to the group, let's add execution. Oh, execution is X, right? Okay, now if we do ls-la and we scroll up here to JupyterHub. So that did not seem to work. Oh, okay. They've got execution privileges, but they don't have write privileges. Okay. So let's do that again. But we'll add write privileges, and then ls-la. Okay. Let's make sure that group now has read, write, and execute privileges. Okay. Group sudo has read, write, execute. Sweet. Okay. Now we will cd into that directory. We'll activate the JupyterHub env virtual environment, and we will generate a configuration file. So we'll use the command conda activate JupyterHub env. So our JupyterHub env environment is active, and then we'll run the command JupyterHub generate config. Now if we list the files in the directory, we can see this JupyterHub config.py file. If we cat out that file, you can see that it's real long and everything is commented out. So we've got a file in the repo that goes along with this video that we're going to move in instead. So here is the file that we're going to move in instead. And a couple things to note about this file. So we're doing the get config, and then we've got this configuration object that we can set attributes on. So we'll set the log level to 10. We'll set the cookie secret file to that file we created earlier. We'll set the proxy auth token to the file that we created earlier. And then we'll also add Peter to the users that can log in. And we'll add Peter to the admin users. And we'll move this file over with FileZilla. So I'll go back here, and then instead of the Nginx etc directory, we'll move over to JupyterHub. And you can see that JupyterHub config.py file, but I want to move this local version that we are looking at in VS Code over instead. And we'll overwrite. Okay. So now that that's in there, if we run the same cat command again, and scroll way up, There's a lot of stuff in here. There we go. Okay, that is the stuff that was in our local version. So let's try this. Let's try to run JupyterHub, see if we can actually get it to go. There might be a problem though with the access to those secret files. So if we try to just run JupyterHub right now, yeah, it says permission was denied to read that cookie secret file. Alright, so what we're going to do now is continue on with our deployment process and run JupyterHub as a system service. If we can run JupyterHub as a system service, then it'll run as root, and it'll have access to those files, and then we'll also be able to mess around here on our server while JupyterHub is running. So that's the next thing that we're going to do. So to make JupyterHub run as a system service, we need to create a new file in this etc systemd system directory. So if I go back to the server, and then we go back to etc and then cd into systemd. Then in there we can see that there's a system directory, and if we cd into system and then list, you can see that there are a bunch of these service files. So we want to create a new service file, but have that service file be for JupyterHub. So I've got a local version of this service file, and let's just go over this real quick. So basically, this service file is going to be called JupyterHub, and it will use the Conda environment that we created in the last video, and that's what this command runs. Then after that environment is active, then it runs the JupyterHub start command, and then it uses the configuration file that we just moved over. So this has got to go in this same directory here. So let's go back to FileZilla, and we want to go to etc systemd, and then system, and then drag that file over. I'm going to make sure that it doesn't go into any of these folders. So over there. Sweet, it's in there. Okay, so now if we do ls, we can see that our JupyterHub.service file is available. So next, what we need to do is we need to reload the system service daemon, and then start our JupyterHub service, and then make sure that it's working okay. So we'll do the daemon reload with this command. And then we'll see if we can start it. So sudo systemctl start JupyterHub. And then we'll check if it's running. Sudo systemctl status JupyterHub. Okay, looks like it's alright. That's good. Control C to get out of there. Let's make sure Nginx is running. Okay, that's working. So I guess what's next is to go to our web address and see if JupyterHub is running and see if we can log in. So I'll open up my web browser again, and let's try to reload the page. Sweet! Success! That's awesome. So note here that we're using HTTPS. We're using our SSL cert, and that we've got no warning here. So if we type in our non-root sudo user's name, Peter, and then their login credentials. Nice. Awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So let's create a new Python 3 notebook. We're at the Jupyter file browser. Let's see if we can import the packages that we installed into our environment, to our conda environment. So import numpy as np, import matplotlib.pyplot as plt. Sweet, that runs. Let's make a little plot. X is equal to np.sign or np.a range. Let's go from 0 up to 10 by 0.1, and then y is equal to np.sign of x, then a plt.plot x comma y, and then a plt.show. Let's show me the plot, matplotlib. Awesome. So this is a Jupyter notebook that's running in the cloud on our JupyterHub server. That is just awesome. Let's change this to a simple plot. Cool. So another cool thing is that here I'm going to leave that page. Well, actually, let's just make sure it's saved. Okay, leave that page. Now, if we click the control panel, you can see that we've got this admin button, and that's because we added Peter as an admin user. So if we click admin, we can do things like stop other people's JupyterHub servers. So if you're running this like for a class, this will allow you to stop or restart people's servers if people get stuck. So I'm going to click stop, and then if I go back to home, then I've got this start my server button because my server got stopped. But if I go back to admin and click start server, and then go back to home, now I've got the stop server or my server buttons because my server is started. So I want to stop the server, and I'll log out. Cool. Our JupyterHub instance is up and running. That's just awesome. Great. So now if we go back here, if we do a sudo systemctl stop JupyterHub, then a sudo systemctl status JupyterHub. So it says it's inactive, it's not running. If we go back to the web page and reload, we get the Nginx screen, but we don't get the ability to log into JupyterHub because we shut it down. So next, let's shut down Nginx. Alright, and sudo systemctl status nginx. So that's not running. That's good. And now if we go back to the web page, try to do a reload. Oh, it's still, there it goes. It says site can't even be reached because Nginx isn't running anymore. So the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to shut down the server from the command line, and then I'll shut down the server from the Linode dashboard. So we'll do sudo shut down -h now, and it says unexpected network close because we just shut off the server. So I can get rid of the putty window here. And now if I go to Linode, I'm going to power the server off. So this completes the work that we wanted to accomplish in this video. We got a whole lot done. We created a bunch of security files, 3 different ones. Then we installed Nginx and moved over a configuration file, and then did a symlink to a server block. And then we created a JupyterHub config file, and then added our security files to that configuration and created an admin user. And then we ran JupyterHub as a system service. And then we logged into JupyterHub and were able to write and run some Python code in a Jupyter Notebook that's running in the cloud. So cool. Whole lot that we accomplished today. So just locally here, I'm going to make sure that all the files are saved, and I'll update them up on GitHub. So this is a terminal on my local computer, the Anaconda prompt, and we'll cd into the documents folder, then into the local folder, and then we'll do a git add git commit end of season 1 episode 4, then git push origin origin master. So now anything that I've been saving locally, you'll have access to in that GitHub repo. So I hope you can join me in the next video. Next time what we're going to be working on is adding GitHub and then Google authentication to our JupyterHub server so that users can log in with GitHub usernames and passwords and Google usernames and passwords. Hope to see you again soon. Thanks and bye.